Hello everyone and welcome back once again. This is your science teacher here, and this time I am here with a new chapter of grade 8 science NCERT textbook, that is coal and petroleum. Students, as you already know that we use various materials for our basic needs, and some of them are found in nature, whereas some of them have been made by human effort. And students, as you all know that air, water, soil and minerals are all obtained from nature, hence they are called natural resources. So students, in the light of the availability of various resources in nature, natural resources can be broadly classified into two main kinds, that are inexhaustible natural resources and exhaustible natural resources. Students, inexhaustible natural resources are those resources that are present in unlimited quantity in nature and are not likely to be exhausted by human activities like sunlight, air, etc. Whereas exhaustible natural resources are the resources that are basically limited amount in nature and they can be exhausted by human activities. For example, forests, wildlife, minerals, coal, petroleum, natural gas, etc. So students, in this chapter we are going to learn and discuss about such kind of inexhaustible and exhaustible resources that are basically found in nature and how we basically get them from nature and what is the importance of theirs in our life and why it is necessary for all of us to use them wisely. And students, at the end of this chapter you will get the answer of all these questions here. So let's start. Now students, before moving on towards the chapter, first of all it is necessary for all of you to know that what are fuels or why coal and petroleum are considered as fuel. Students, a fuel is any kind of substance that releases large amount of energy in the form of heat and light when we burn them. For example, coal and petroleum. And students, as you all know that generally when coal and petroleum burn, they gives us large amount of energy in the form of heat and light. That's why they are considered as fuels. Now students, on the basis of the availability of fuels in different states, they are classified into three main categories, and that are solid fuels, liquid fuels and gaseous fuels. Students, solid fuels are those fuels that are basically solid at room temperature. For example, like coal, firewood, animal dung cakes, charcoal, etc. Whereas liquid fuels are those fuels that are volatile and that produces vapor when we burn them and gives us a huge amount of energy, like petrol, diesel, kerosene, etc. And students, gaseous fuels are those fuels that exist in the form of gas or as a mixture of different gaseous fuel. For example, natural gas, biogas, CNG, coal gas, etc. Now students, as you can see here the question, why do we need fuels, or what is the importance of these fossil fuels in our life? So the first use of fossil fuels is transportation. Students, as you know that the different kind of vehicles that we basically use in our daily life, such as cars, trucks, motorcycle, trains, airplanes, etc., are used to run just because of these fossil fuels, and these fossil fuels are very necessary for the transportation of different kind of vehicle. The second use is for cooking. Students, do you know that the LPG cylinder that we basically use in our home for cooking purpose is also a kind of fuel, while the firewood, coal and cattle dung that we use in our villages are also considered as fuel, and this LPG or firewood, coal, kettle dung is very important for the cooking purpose of food in our home. The next one is for heating. Students, as I said earlier, that generally when we burn fuels, they produces or gives us a large amount of energy. So the energy that they gives us is in the form of heat. The next one is for electricity production. Students, different fuels like coal, petrol, natural gas and diesels are also used to generate electricity in power plants in order to run heavy machines. The next one is industrial usage. Students, as I said that these fuels are basically used to run heavy machines. So in many industries these fuels are for different purposes, like for producing electricity to run heavy machines or heating and generating the machinery parts of industries. The next one is for rocket and other space vehicles. Students, do you know that the fuels that basically used to run rockets and other space vehicles are called as propellant? And students, these propellants are used in rockets that help in launching the space vehicles. So students, that's why we need fossil fuels in our daily life, and without them we can't just imagine our life. Students, as I said earlier that any substance that releases a large amount of heat and energy are considered as fuels. So students, it is important for all of you to know that what are the characteristics of a good fuel, or which substance can we say that it is a good fuel. So students, here in this section you will learn and know that what are the characteristics of a good fuel, or what substances can we say is a good fuel. So students, the first characteristic of a good fuel is it should be economical. Means it can be accessible to each and every section of the society, whether they are poor or rich. The next characteristic is it should be available easily. The next characteristic is it shouldn't emit poisonous gases on burning. Student, this is the most important characteristic of a good fuel, that it shouldn't give or emit poisonous gases on burning. The next one, it should produce large amount of heat with respect to its mass. It should have a high calorific value. Students, it means that a good fuels produce large amount of heat with respect to its mass, and it should have a high calorific value. Students, calorific value is the amount of energy released or produced when 1 kg of fuel burns, and students, the amount of heat that generally generate or released after burning 1 kg of fuels determines the calorific value of that substance. The next one, it should be easy to transport and handle. The next one, it shouldn't produce a bad odor. Odor means smell, means it cannot be harmful to human life as well as other living organisms. The next one, it should be clean and shouldn't produce many ashes. It means that when a good fuel burn, it shouldn't leave behind ashes. And the last one, that it shouldn't ignite easily at room temperature. Students, as I said that fuel generally release a high amount of heat and energy that may be dangerous in some cases. So it is a characteristic of a good fuel that it shouldn't ignite easily or itself at room temperature. Now students, the first fossil fuel that we are going to discuss here elaborately is about coal. Students, coal is a hard rock which can be burned as a solid fossil fuel, and it is generally formed from dead plant matter over millions of years due to heat and pressure. Now students, it is important for all of you to know that how this coal was formed. Students, coal generally formed millions of years ago when the earth was covered with huge swampy forests where plants like giant ferns, reeds and mosses grew. And students, as the plants grew, some died and fell into the swamp waters. And then again, new plants grew up to take their places. And students, when these died, still more grew. And in time, there was a thick layer of dead plants rotting in the swamp. And students, when 100 million years ago, the surface of the earth changed, and when water and dirt washed in, stopping to decaying process, then more plants grew up, but they too died and formed separate layers. And students, after millions of years, many layers had formed, one on top of the other. And due to this, the weight of the top layers and the water and dirt packed down the lower layers of the plant matter. And due to this rock and dirt, heat and pressure produced chemical and physical changes in the plant layers, which forced out oxygen and left rich carbon deposit. Then students, in time, material that had been plants became coal. And that's how coal was formed in nature naturally over millions of years ago. Students, as I said that coal was formed over millions of years ago through different biological, chemical and geological processes on dead and decaying plant matter. Now students, do you know that coal mainly contains carbon, and due to this, the process of conversion of dead and decaying plant matter into coal is called as carbonization. And students, this coal basically comes from coal mine, as you can see here in this image. Now students, do you know that what is the composition of coal? Students, coal basically consists of hydrogen, carbon and oxygen and sulfur also, but in a small amount. Now students, as you can see here, that here is a question, what is coal mining? Students, generally the coal is extracted from the ground with a process called mining. And students, this coal mining can be of two types. The first one is open cast mining and the second one is underground mining. Students, open cast mining is a mining in which coal is extracted from near the earth's surface, as you can see here. Whereas underground mining is a mining in which coal is extracted deep inside the earth crust, as you can see here. Now students, as you can see here the heading, different types of coal. Students, as coal gets older, then the carbon content in it higher. And students, when we burn coal, then it mainly produces carbon dioxide gas. So students, on the basis of the carbon content in coal, it is basically divided into different types. As the first one is peat, lignite, bituminous, steam coal, anthracite, graphite. And students, this image shows you that the higher content of carbon is basically found in graphite, whereas the minimum content of carbon is found in peat. And from peat, the carbon content in coal increases towards graphite. And that's how, due to this carbon content, coals are classified into different types. Now students, let's learn about the uses of coal. Students, this coal is used as fuel because it produces a large amount of heat as well as energy. The second one, it is used in thermal power plants for producing Electricity. It is also used in various industries as fuel. Students, do you know that once coal was used as fuel to run steam powered railway engines? And students, when this coal processed further, then this coal yields coke, coal tar and coal gas, which in turn used by many industries. Now students, as you can see here the heading, major coal products. So the first coal products is coke. Students, this coke is generally formed when the coal is processed further. And in fact, not only coke, coal tar and coal gas also formed when coal is processed further. Student, this coke is very tough, porous and black substance, and it is almost the pure form of carbon. And this coke is used in manufacturing steel and in extraction of many metals. And students, when we process the coal to get coke, then it also releases or gives us coal gas. The next major product of coal is coal tar. Students, this coal tar is basically a black, thick liquid with very unpleasant smell. And this coal tar is basically a mixture of 200 substances. That's why it gives very unpleasant smell. And students, as I said, that coal tar is a mixture of about 200 substances. That's why it is used as raw materials to manufacture drugs, explosive, naphthalene balls, perfumes, synthetic dyes, paints, plastics, roofing materials, photographic materials, etc. And students, as you all know that this coal tar is also used for metaling the roads. But now a time bitumen, that is a petroleum product that you will read in the further section, is used for this purpose, means metaling the road. The next coal product is coal gas. Now students, as I said, when the coal is processed further, then it gets coke and also yields coal gas. So this coal gas is a byproduct of the processed coal. And students, this coal gas is used in many industries as a fuel to run heavy machineries, and it is only used as a heat source, not as a source of light. And students, as I said, that coal gas is not used as a light source, but once it was used for street lighting in London in 1810 and for the first time in New York in 1820. So students, that's all about coal. And with this topic here, the first part of your chapter number 5 is completed here. Now I will come back soon with the second part of this chapter. Till then, stay home, stay safe and stay healthy.